individually, so. Good morning, and wow, thank you all so very much for being here on this cold, snowy day. This is incredible. Thank you. It's really an honor and privilege to have you all here to recognize our friend and ATF Director Steven Dettelbach. My name is Chelsea Rice, and I have the privilege of emceeing this event today. I initially, before I began, wanted to take a moment to recognize our fearless ATF team and our partners in California who are, as we speak, battling the devastating wildfires there. And our thoughts and prayers are with everyone affected by this devastation. So please continue to keep them in your hearts and prayers, as I know you are. With us today, we have supporters of ATF from across the Department of Justice and the federal government, including the White House. We are privileged to have former ATF Director Brad Buckles here with us today, and so many friends and supporters of ATF and Director Dettelbach. That you all are here is a testament to the incredible work that has been achieved by everyone at ATF since the director came in 2022. When he joined ATF as the director in 2022, he had been a long staple in the Department of Justice community. In fact, when he was U.S. Attorney in Cleveland, Ohio, he hired me to the Department of Justice. Since 2010, it has been the honor of my life to serve this country. And it has been an even bigger honor to work with my friends here at ATF. Thank you. Today's my last day too, by the way, so thank you. Thank you for your patience with my emotional turmoil. When Steve asked me to come here with him that summer, I didn't hesitate because I knew from him being a friend, a mentor, fellow Buckeye fan, sorry Texas fans, but I think tonight's gonna be a rough one. I had no doubt of what he could achieve to fight violent crime and make this country safer. It's because of Steve's leadership, passion, intelligence, creativity, unyielding drive, and not giving up, and pushing, that I did not hesitate to join him. I had no doubt that he would be an outstanding leader and would work tirelessly to protect the people of this country, and that's exactly what he has done. Working at ATF these past 2.5 years has been an absolute privilege, not only because I was able to serve as his counselor and currently acting chief of staff, but I got to work alongside the incredible women and men of this agency. In addition, it has been a true honor because I have been able to work and observe the extraordinary leaders at the Department of Justice whose support, dedication, and compassion has been instrumental in ATF's success. One of those leaders is our first speaker, our Deputy Attorney General of the United States, Lisa Monaco, or the DAG, as all of you DOJ folks know her, and in fact, many of our loved ones also now know when we refer to her as the DAG. Deputy Attorney General Monaco is devoted and inspiring public servant and a true champion of law enforcement. She has supported ATF's mission and all of you and all of us since day one. When we pitched new initiatives to drive down violent crime, she was our fiercest supporter. When we asked her to help us spread the word about new crime gun intelligence centers, she did not hesitate. And most importantly, when agents were shot or injured in the line of duty, her sympathy and compassion were palpable. We are all better as an agency, a department, and a country because of her leadership. Thank you, Deputy Attorney General Monaco, and please join me in welcoming the 39th Deputy Attorney General of the United States, the Honorable Lisa Monaco.
Thanks so much, Chelsea. I really hope that your families only know me as the DAG. But really, thanks so much for that generous introduction and for your incredible service to this great agency and to our beloved Justice Department. Now I want to start by recognizing Steve's family here today, especially his wife, Carol, and Allie and David. Steve's service, as you all have heard me say many times before, like so many in the Justice Department, is really enabled by their loved ones. All of our work is enabled by our loved ones and the sacrifices you make. So his service is your service too, so thank you for your sacrifices. Now, it is really an honor to be here to help celebrate and say farewell to Steve Dettelbach, a towering figure in the department. I mean, it's too easy, right? Not just because he's the tallest component head. I'm pretty sure I didn't fact check that, but I mean, right? But when I think about the breadth and the length of Steve's service, from civil rights prosecutor, AUSA, U.S. attorney, and service as the ATF director, I think of a word: boundless. Boundless energy, starting most days before sunrise, ending deep into the night. Boundless optimism, a can-do attitude, and you've all seen it, never tamped down by, well, anyone. Not even the DAG. And boundless leadership, always pushing the envelope, going the extra mile, encouraging staff to generate new and innovative ideas, maybe sometimes to their chagrin, but always for the enduring benefit of our communities. Now, despite our differences in height, Director Dettelbach and I often saw eye to eye. And that's because we agree on an essential premise about ATF's work, one that all of you have heard from day one and since from Steve day in and day out. Everything we do at ATF, he says, begins and ends with public safety. And I've witnessed that mantra in action every day of Steve's service and that of the incredible leadership team that he has assembled. And as the first Senate-confirmed ATF director in a long, long time, he took that mandate and he ran with it. There are too many notable successes to list today, but allow me to highlight just a few of the accomplishments that ATF has realized under his leadership. He led ATF's implementation of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the most significant gun safety legislation in over 30 years. Putting that landmark bipartisan legislation into action has meant investigating and charging hundreds of defendants for firearms trafficking and straw purchasing, keeping guns out of the most dangerous individuals. Because of the enhanced background checks for those under 21 that were established in the law, nearly 1,000 transactions have already been stopped. Again, keeping guns out of those who shouldn't have them because they pose a danger to our families and our communities. Because of ATF's work and Steve's leadership, critical updates to regulations now make it harder for criminals and other prohibited persons to obtain untraceable ghost guns. And those who are engaged in the business of selling guns must get a federal license and run background checks. And on his watch, ATF cracked down on firearms smuggling by cartels and transnational criminal organizations, making our communities safer. Throughout it all, Steve exhibited that boundless energy I spoke of at the outset. I have an enduring image of Steve in my mind for the regular meetings he and his team would have in my conference room. He would literally, his nearly 7-foot frame, be bouncing on his toes of his feet, on the balls of his feet. So excited was he to talk about ATF's work. Famously, though, none of this was easy, not at all. ATF is, of course, no stranger to being in the bullseye, but no matter what, Steve never stopped working in good faith to reach across the aisle, to reach across borders, to reach out to those with strongly held views of all kinds from all perspectives to find common ground, all in an effort to save lives. He worked day and night as a fierce advocate for the women and men of ATF to prioritize investments in ATF's people, to prioritize investments in its mission and its unique role working with its state and local partners to protect our communities by relentlessly advocating for crime gun intelligence, nearly doubling the number of crime gun intelligence centers, or CGICs, nationwide in the past 4 years, by adding 139 NIBIN sites and growing the number of agencies contributing to that vital database, totaling more than 12,000 now, a huge, huge accomplishment. And by increasing the number of law enforcement agencies authorized to access the E-Trace application. Today, more than half of all law enforcement agencies can now use that critical tool. Thanks to Steve and to Marvin before him, they made me an evangelist for crime gun intelligence for one simple reason. It works, it saves lives, it helps our state and local partners take the most prolific trigger pullers off the streets. Steve has led with great vision, championing innovation in ATF's mission, especially by focusing on emerging threats. Because of this vision, ATF led the charge to go after deadly machine gun conversion devices that turn run-of-the-mill firearms into weapons of war. He convened experts from our national labs, from academia, from the 3D printing industry to address the proliferation of these illegal machine guns that are devastating our communities. Now, while many of ATF's accomplishments can be measured with research and stats, some are harder to see. The loved one who made it home last night because a firearm dealer conducted a background check. The child who is safe at school today because ATF disrupted a gun trafficking network. These accomplishments, these victories, are harder to count, but they are lived out by Americans every single day. Steve, because of your work and that of the dedicated men and women of ATF, our communities are safer, and those who've been touched by gun violence, though there are far too many of those, they have a place at the center of ATF's work. Indeed, they have a featured place at the center of this very building and of this organization. I think it's quite fitting that we are doing this farewell ceremony for you as we face the faces of gun violence, because it's such a priority for you, Steve. Steve's and ATF's dedication to public safety and the victims of gun violence is quite literally reflected here at the center of this building in the faces of gun violence. And I was proud to participate in ATF's inaugural Gun Violence Survivor Summit, born of Steve's and ATF's commitment to supporting victims of gun violence and their families, the mothers, the fathers, the sons, the daughters, those in law enforcement who all made the ultimate sacrifice. In dedicating the faces of gun violence, Steve spoke of ATF's dedication to, and I quote, honoring the fallen and protecting the living. Steve has demonstrated that commitment time and again, always there for those who run toward danger, always there at the ATF agent's bedside, invested in his or her recovery every step of the way, always there to comfort the families of those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Steve, my friend, thank you. Thank you for your leadership of this great agency, of its dedicated men and women. Your tireless efforts leave ATF and the Justice Department a better place. I'm grateful for your partnership, for your leadership, and your friendship. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Deputy Attorney General Monaco. I should have noted at the beginning, due to obviously the Deputy Attorney General and the Attorney General's schedules, we did have some scheduling changes, and the Attorney General would be speaking later on in the program. So thank you for your flexibility, and we are honored to have both of them here with us today. Likewise, the Deputy Attorney General may not be able to stay for the whole event, and we are so honored that you could open for us today. Thank you so very much. When I spoke earlier about the incredible people at ATF, this is best exemplified by our next three presenters, starting with our Deputy Director, Marvin Richardson. Deputy Director Richardson is traveling right now, but he would not have missed the opportunity to give our director remarks and express his appreciation. So we will play that video here in a moment. And immediately following his remarks in the video, you will hear remarks from our two executive assistant directors, Alfonso Hughes and Robert Sakata. I don't think it would be a shock to anyone to hear that you and the deputy director have been the foundation of everything that we could accomplish here the last 2.5 years. Your wisdom, patience, sage advice, and friendship have truly been the foundation of everything the director has done. And as I said earlier, you're stuck with us for life. We're friends and proud to say Department of Justice colleagues going forward. So thank you for your career in public service and everything you do to keep the public safe. With that, I would like to play Deputy Director Richardson's video. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there with you in person today as we bid farewell to a truly outstanding leader, Director Steve Dettelbach. Steve, your leadership, vision, and dedication have left an indelible mark on this agency and the mission that we serve. Over the past 2.5 years, you've been a staunch supporter of this agency, leading with unwavering integrity, a steadfast commitment to justice, and a deep respect for the men and women who serve ATF. When we first met that day in the White House Rose Garden, where you were announced as the nominee, I whispered to you that you were going to fall in love with this agency and the people who carry out this mission. And today, I think it's safe to say that I was right. I know that it was like drinking from a fire hose in the beginning, but you quickly consumed and digested everything from policies and procedures to ATF orders, and yes, even those dreaded ATF acronyms. You hit the ground running, and in just over a year, you made it to all 25 field divisions and many other locations as you filled your travel days with stops at any office that was in striking distance so that you could personally speak with our people. From the time that you assumed this role, the mission of ATF has been elevated in the Department of Justice with our state and local counterparts and with numerous other partners both inside and outside of government. At a time when the challenges that we face have grown more complex and the stakes even higher, you brought clarity, resolve, and vision that charted a clear path for us in the current administration. Your focus on key priorities, such as modernizing operations, fostering a culture of accountability, and building partnerships has set a standard for leadership that will inspire this agency for years to come. Under your leadership, we achieved the launch of Spartan, our new law enforcement case management system. We modernized our industry programs and services platforms through the ITEM project. We saw exponential growth in the development and launching of crime gun intelligence analytics, and we implemented new rules and regulations which modernized the language in both the GCA and the NFA, enabling us to keep pace with 3D printing and injection molding industries. You fostered an environment that supported going after some of the most dangerous offenders in communities across this country and strengthened our partnerships with domestic and international law enforcement, just to name a few things. These achievements are not just milestones. They are a testament to your ability to see the bigger picture while ensuring that no detail was overlooked. But Steve, you've been more than just a strong leader. You have been a source of inspiration, a mentor, and a tireless advocate of the men and women who support this mission and wear this badge. You have always understood that our strength lies not just in our mission, but in our people. Whether it was taking time to hear employee concerns, celebrating individual and team successes, or guiding us through difficult moments, you demonstrated that you cared by actually doing things. Things like a thank you call to a group to congratulate them on an outstanding firearms trafficking case, or participating in our monthly front office chats to let the agency know just what's going on. Or perhaps it was personally visiting injured agents to ensure them that the agency has their backs. Your actions remind us all of the values that make this agency and this country great. Your tenure has left a legacy that extends beyond the walls of this agency. It's a legacy of accountability, resilience, and dedication to the rule of law. You have made us stronger, more capable, and better prepared to face the future. And as you leave this role, we know the values that you brought and the foundations that you've laid will guide us into the future. And while we will miss your leadership, we take comfort in knowing that your impact will be felt long after this chapter closes. And so on behalf of the entire agency, thank you for your service, your unwavering leadership, and your commitment to the principles of justice that guide our work. We wish you nothing but the best of success and fulfillment in the next phase of your journey. And now, on behalf of myself, Fonz, and Rob, we want to present you with this ATF wall badge. And we hope that you will proudly display it and let everyone know that you led, supported, and believe in the agency whose mission it is to run towards the gunfire. And now, for myself, personally, Director Dettelbach, Steve, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your partnership and allowing me to walk beside you on this journey. And thank you for everything that you have done for this agency. You will always have a home here at ATF. May God bless you and your family in the next chapter of your journey. We appreciate everything that you've done for us. God bless you and stay safe.
The director started by recognizing me with an uh-oh, and the reason being is I'm not as eloquent as any one of the other speakers you heard from this morning. I did have a speech that I typed up, but I figured I'll stick to what you're used to and just hearing from me speaking. So yeah, over the last almost two and a half years, the director and I have worked together every day and been on the phone from early in the morning, some days starting at around 5:30 in the morning till late at night. They weren't always pleasant conversations. They were good conversations about work. And I will say that there was a lot of learning in the sense of operational side. How does ATF work? And during those conversations, not once did he ever challenge what we were doing operationally. Always supported every idea we came up with to figure out how we can make public safety a priority and how our folks can conduct those operations successfully and safely. Those were the two things that he focused on the most every day. I can't say that was true in the past. In the past, we had a lot of pushback on some of the operations, especially our more overt undercover operations that were quite challenging to conduct safely. We received a lot of pushback, but he handled those as a prosecutor, was not new to them, and was very supportive on those, and was very supportive of every one of our investigative tools. Our special agents that focus on criminal operations every day, whether it's our firearms trafficking cases, our violent crime cases, our arson and explosives cases, every one of those was a top priority for the director and for this agency, and he did everything he could to support us there. And he really championed everything that our agency did so well every day that didn't catch the political attention that was always negative. This was all the positive work that happened behind the scenes but had the most effect in public safety that people don't pay a lot of attention to, unfortunately. In those days, there was an opportunity. He could have said no, a hard no, and told me never to come back and ask that question, but he never did. He said no, and he allowed me to come back, often several times, and nibbling at the apple a few times until I got back with a yes. So I do have to thank you for that, because I have been told many times no, a hard no, and never to come back again and ask that question. So I never got that answer, and I do thank you for that from myself and from all of our folks out there that are doing this job every day. You heard the DAG talk about your support for our agents, and I can personally talk about your care and support for 3 of our agents in particular. There's many that you've called after them being injured during a law enforcement operation, but 3 in particular suffered very critical injuries: Adam Daniels, Carlos Valle, and most recently Matt Murray. And each of those agents were obviously not only concerned for their own well-being, but their family's well-being and their ability to continue doing the job that they love doing so much. And the first thing that the director did was to stand up and reassure each one of them that ATF had their back. We were truly a family. He reminded them that we were like a real family, that we sometimes fought with each other behind the scenes, but we still love one another, and we're always there when you needed each other most. So he did that beyond words, and actually put in writing a letter for each one of them that would protect their jobs in support of a law that was recently passed in 22 to protect not only federal law enforcement, but federal firefighters that are hurt in the line of duty. So that went a long way, not only for those 3, but for the rest of our folks that are out there risking their lives every day, because they take it for granted. Every one of them are out there doing it and don't realize that one moment can change, and every great plan can be foiled by a bad guy with a plan that we didn't know what they were thinking, and life's changed forever at that point. So that was huge for us, and I thank you so much for doing that, and really paves a path forward to protect our people in the future as well. From a personal perspective, thank you for your patience with me. I'm not an easy person to deal with, I know that, and I apologize to anyone that I have offended at any given time. But I will tell you that my intention is good, and I thank you for supporting me and my family during a very challenging time that we went through for about a year. So my wife and I greatly appreciate that, and I have been also asked to thank you on behalf of our friends at Wichita State. They were trying to travel here last night and encountered multiple weather cancellations, and then ultimately drove off the road going back to their homes, but they're okay, thank God. So they'll be reaching out to you later themselves, but thank you from all of us, and I look forward to hearing great things about your future very soon. Thank you, sir.
All right, Steve, today is symbolic. Symbolic and bittersweet at the same time. So while in government we are used to going through a transition every 4 years or so with our leadership, it hit ATF's a little bit different when we say farewell, especially to a Senate-confirmed leader that carries the weight of a presidential nomination. Here at ATF, we are used to the fight. We are used to fighting every day and justifying our existence and prove the worth of existence to the American people. But it brings the staff a sense of calm when we have a leader we can reference by the permanent title of ATF Director. You were only the 2nd Senate-confirmed ATF Director in our history, and you selflessly served in that role, just like all of the former directors, to include those who all had acted. I joyfully carry most humble appreciation of you and your family for making that sacrifice and commitment to the women and men of ATF. Sir, you may not remember me or the Enforcement Programs and Services Directorate staff when we met you at the White House upon your nomination. But after all the speeches, we weaseled our way through the crowds and finally made it to you and Carol and your 2 children. And I remember saying to you, hey, sir, we're not famous. We're just 2 of your staff members here. And you high-fived us and said, We're going to work hard, and we're going to have fun doing it. I also remember you saying to your wife, welcome to work, because in this position, whether she knew it or not, she was going to be living the same schedule that you were living every day. All of those words stuck with me, and I am sure it's true for the EPS leadership team at the time that was with me. We did work hard, we did drive change, and now although I can't speak of the fun that everybody had every day, but truly it has been a positive learning experience these last few years. What I did learn personally from you, never say no, never say we can't, give it your best shot at getting the job done, and no matter what the roadblocks are that are set forth in front of you. The list goes on for what you challenge the entire executive team here at ATF to accomplish every day. For the administration directorates, you demanded excellence, perseverance. You told me, Alfonso, cut the red tape. And I remember it was actually downright funny at times sitting at the oval table in your office upstairs when we would passively argue our points and lose. But later you would admit we were right, or maybe not outright admit. Sometimes behind closed doors you say you were right, Alfonso, or something like that. But in the end, you know, the mission was accomplished and we did it every time, and on to the next. I would say you impacted many of us here in the same regard, and the majority of others here in the audience today. You kept the front office in check, consistent, no matter how tough a decision was. You always thought of the people first. Then you went through a mental checklist of risks, arguments, and needless to say, cross-examination of your staff, all taken into consideration when you made your decisions. Steve, I wish you the best post-ATF career of your life, one hopefully spent closest with your family. Dee Dee Richardson reflected on our token from the front office, and that was the director's Iron Art badge inscribed with your badge number, which was number 1. This badge is symbolic to all of us for your service as a leader of this great agency and all agencies across federal, state, local government that we've provided services to. Also, today, your photo is on the wall of directors on the 5th floor. So as you walk out today, you'll see that photo next to all the other directors. We know you will always wear the boxing gloves for us and fight for ATF behind the scenes moving forward. So, sir, Godspeed and good luck. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Robin Fons. Deputy? Well, as you've heard said, everything we do at ATF begins and ends with public safety. And our partnerships with local, state, tribal, and federal law enforcement partners are absolutely critical to that mission. We simply could not do our jobs without these prized relationships. That is why we are so honored to have Mr. Jim Pasco here to speak today. Mr. Pasco has a distinguished career in public service, including many years as an assistant director at ATF, and he's currently the executive director of the National Fraternal Order of Police, the world's largest organization of sworn law enforcement officers. Mr. Pasco, thank you so much for being here with us today and for your continued partnership. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Pasco. Thank you.
Thank you. I did, in fact, spend 25 years at ATF. There are very few people here who were around when I even retired, except for maybe Brad Buckles. So Brad's heard this before. I stand before you today almost totally unprepared to make remarks, because when you're talking about somebody like Steve Dettelbach, who in such a short period of time left such a mark here in Washington, his accomplishments, his drive, and so forth stand out, and they've all been picked off, starting with Lisa Monaco, you know, and all the way through Cicada and so forth. And by the way, when you apologize to everybody for being kind of a crank at times when you worked here, don't do that. That's a sign of weakness. You know? But I did, in fact, try to do a little research because I anticipated that a lot of the high points would be covered. And I even went to AI, which I only allow used in my office for spell check and that kind of thing. But I went to AI and I punched in Steve Dettelbach and came pretty close to stumping it. all that came back time and again was one Gustav Duesenberg, who was an early automotive pioneer. And most of his accomplishments weren't really germane, so I didn't even steal that. I was talking earlier with my colleague and friend, Vince Tolucci from the International Association of Chiefs, and the distinguished sheriff of Loudoun County, Sheriff Chapman, about you and your tenure here. And we as groups, and there are 6, 7, 8 major police organizations here represented here in D.C. One is the major county sheriffs, which Sheriff Chapman has been a mainstay of, and Vince, of course, is the CEO at IACP. And our agendas and our points of view differ from time to time, but when it comes to public safety issues and violent crime, we're all in agreement. And I know, I speak for them, just based on our conversations here and our conversations over the last 2.5 years, on what an asset you have been to not just ATF and not just federal law enforcement, but to those absolutely vital partnerships with state and local law enforcement, the task forces that ATF participates in. Is Ann Milgram here today? Okay. I was talking to her the other day and talking about you and talking about ATF, and I said, from our perspective, and again, we have 377,000 members who are never afraid to complain, So if they don't like you, we know about it. But I am absolutely confident that of all the agencies, based on the feedback we get and the reaction we get when we say we want to help ATF on funding or what have you, that ATF continues to be one of the most popular and relied upon agencies with our members. And they're the guys with the boots on the ground, and they're the ones who relate to the agents on the street. And that goes to the culture of ATF. When you first came in, you may recall, President Yos and I came over to visit with you, and the first question you asked is, what do we need to do differently? What do we need to change? And we said, then don't change anything. Just support it and nurture it. The culture of ATF and the willingness of the agents to get out there, get their hands dirty, get up in the middle of the night, work in the most dangerous situations, shoulder to shoulder with their local law enforcement counterparts, is something that's always been there. And you have done an awful lot to foster that and proselytize the willingness to get out there. And you've been kind of a force multiplier in that regard. And we'll always remember you for that and appreciate it. And your boundless energy, which has been referred to before, and you have empowered your executive staff to be involved in the same way. And Marvin, the energizer, the Johnny Appleseed of NIBIN, travels the countryside. I don't think he'll ever let up, But in any event, we appreciate you for all those things. We appreciate the culture of ATF. And I would just close by saying I really did look and research, people in leadership positions who came before us that we could maybe equate to Director Dettelbach's approach and energetic level. And being an old Army guy, I kind of drifted to prominent generals, and I thought of General Douglas MacArthur for one, and more contemporary, General Tommy Franks, who distinguished himself during the Middle East conflicts that we were involved in when he was at the top of his game, and with you. And I thought, what is the commonality here? What do all three of these guys have that made them special? I thought, wait a minute, they're all tall. And that was about it. But in any event, we can't thank you enough, and we congratulate you, and we wish you well. We understand you're staying around town, so we hope we see a lot more of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Director Pasco. I mentioned earlier the incredible privilege it has been to serve ATF under such extraordinary Department of Justice leadership. Our next speaker has led the Justice Department with unmatched fortitude, compassion, integrity, and dedication. Our Attorney General of the United States, the Honorable Merrick B. Garland. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Risha, and hello, everyone. Sorry I'm coming in late and leaving early, but who knew that my last 2 weeks would be quite so busy? But they are. I want to start by recognizing Steve's family, his wife Carol, who's here with us today, and children Allie and David, who are joining us virtually. Is that right? Oh, they're not virtually, they're here. Okay. Scratch that off. I don't know. Nowadays, I can't tell the difference between FaceTime and real time, so. All of us in public service know that our careers are made possible by the support of our families who've sacrificed so much so that we may serve. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for your support of Steve. Now is the time to thank you, Steve, for the countless ways you have advanced ATF's mission for the past 2.5 years. You helped lead the Justice Department's efforts to accelerate the fight against gun violence on every front, from cracking down on criminal gun trafficking pipelines, to deepening our partnerships with state and local law enforcement, to updating ATF regulations. Under your leadership, ATF agents and field divisions across the country partnered with state and local law enforcement to turn the tide against violent crime. Preliminary data shows that 2024 will mark the 3rd year in a row that we have seen a substantial decline in murders nationwide. You oversaw the expansion of our crime gun intelligence centers, employing cutting-edge technology to trace crime guns, link ballistics evidence to connect shootings, and identify gun traffickers and straw purchasers who arm violent criminals. You championed NIBIN, the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, which is one of the most powerful tools the Justice Department has in its fight against gun violence. Because of your leadership, ATF is now working more closely than ever with our state and local law enforcement partners to turn the evidence they collect at crime scenes into leads. In FY 2023 alone, ATF generated over 200,000 leads on violent criminals. Indeed, as I have traveled the country meeting with local law enforcement in almost every single state, the question I am most often asked is, when am I going to get one of those NIBIN machines? Steve, who said you were crazy when you said that the ATF motto should be a NIBIN in every pot? You also championed investment in research and analysis that helps solve and prevent crimes, including firearms, arson, and explosives. That includes the publication of ATF's most recent comprehensive survey of firearms trafficking. And you helmed ATF's efforts to ensure that its regulations keep pace with the ever-changing technology of firearms. That includes issuing a final rule clarifying when a person is engaged in the business of dealing in firearms and thus required to obtain a federal firearms license. That also included significant work to implement the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the most significant gun safety legislation in over 30 years. Under your leadership, ATF published an interim final rule to prevent stolen firearms from being resold and implemented enhanced background checks for purchasers under 21. And thanks to ATF's work, the Justice Department charged over 60 defendants in more than 350 cases under the new trafficking and straw purchasing legislation. Steve, it goes without saying that I'm impressed by your leadership and all that ATF has accomplished under your tenure. But I am equally impressed by the way you did your work. Last spring, hundreds of members of the public gathered here for an event that was the first of its kind. They came because they had lost loved ones to gun violence. They came because they were dedicated to preventing other families from experiencing the loss that they have experienced. And they came because the ATF Director, Steven Dettelbach, invited them to share their stories at an inaugural Gun Violence Survivors Summit. In everything you have done, Steve, you have reminded us why ATF does the work it does, why all of us came to law enforcement to save lives. You have stood up for and empowered the career professionals of ATF who work tirelessly to fulfill their mission. You have advocated for the agents who are on the front lines of the fight against gun violence, the agents who are often among the first to arrive at the scenes of mass shootings, the agents who conduct complex, dangerous operations and answer the call without hesitation. You have honored the agents who made the ultimate sacrifice in service to our nation and those who have been injured in that service. Indeed, even in the last days of December, you are calling a Florida hospital to check up on an ATF agent who lay there severely injured after intervening to stop a fight. You are making sure that he was properly taken care of and making sure that ATF's worried law enforcement partners were kept apprised of his status. Steve, you have earned the respect of ATF's agents and staff, as well as the Bureau's many law enforcement partners across the country, and you have earned the gratitude of a country that is fortunate for your service. 2.5 years ago, at your investiture, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of ATF's founding as an independent agency. Today is more bittersweet because it is a farewell. I know how much you love this agency and how deeply you believe in it and in the people who work here. But you should know that your leadership will be felt here in the halls of ATF and on the streets of communities across America for many more years to come. Thank you for your extraordinary service.
Thank you so very much, Attorney General Garland. As I mentioned earlier, and as I'm sure is no shock to all of you, he is extremely busy, so is not able to stay for the rest of the event, but we are so privileged to have him here today. And I should mention, throughout the last 2.5 years, he has been a fastidious supporter of ATF, both in the public events he mentioned, but also privately in outreach to injured agents and to our staff. So we are truly honored to have had him here with us today and for all of the department's support. At this time, I would like to turn over to our team here at ATF to welcome all of our assistant directors up individually to present some pieces of gratitude to the director and give some brief remarks. I would like to first start with Karen Montgomery, our Deputy Chief of Staff, and really the one, along with Michelle Back, who makes sure we stay on track, get everything done. Things you didn't even know needed to be done, they were already taken care of, thanks to Karen and Michelle. So Karen, if you would like to come up, thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. On behalf of the Office of the Director, I would like to first start by giving a small token of appreciation for Carol. So as the Deputy Attorney General acknowledged, we also want to acknowledge your sacrifice that you made with him being here and you being in Cleveland most of the time. Thank you. We have a small gift for you, Director, to commemorate your time with us. It is heavy and breakable, so I'm moving away from the mic. So we do have alcohol as the beginning of our meeting.
These come in handy too. Wow. this will do nicely, so thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, Karen. I would now like to introduce, on behalf of the Office of Field Operations, Matthew Verisco.
Sir. Good morning, I guess. Director, just want to say, obviously, thank you for your leadership. I just want to echo what's already been said so many times. Your support to the men and women of field operations has been absolutely tremendous. On behalf of the special agents in charge, all of our people in the field, the special agents, our task force officers, industry operations investigators, IRSs, support staff. As the deputy director said, you visited every field division. I had the good fortune of being the special agent in charge when you visited Pittsburgh, and it was a great visit. One of the things I think that really should be highlighted is the director also visited offices that had not seen an ATF director in a very, very long time, and that was the case in Pittsburgh. So the Pittsburgh field office and Pittsburgh Bureau of Police were absolutely just grateful for the visit. So, and you did that so many times. As the EAD said, you've taken care of our people. We've had a lot of significant injuries to agents during your tenure, and you've been there for them. So thank you. On a personal note, I just want to say also thank you for all the support you gave me in my career and my family. And it's been a privilege, to work for you. So. Yeah, there you go, sir. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Next, I would like to introduce, on behalf of the Office of Science and Technology, Roger Beasley. And Mason, too. Thank you.
Yeah. You get a twofer here, Director. So, but Director, as the AD for OST, I've had the opportunity to witness your leadership firsthand. Your vision, dedication for the agency have inspired not only me, but all the men and women of OST to push the boundaries of what's possible in law enforcement, forensic science, technology, and public safety. You've led with conviction, and your commitment to the mission of ATF has been an anchor for all of us. Under your direction, we've modernized and adapted to the evolving needs of law enforcement with projects like ITEM and the building of our Crime Gun Intelligence Forensic Laboratory in Wichita. Now, CTO Mason McDaniel will present a token of OST's appreciation.
One of my hobbies is wood carving, so I broke out my knife and carved this plaque that has a picture of ATF headquarters and embedded OST coin and reads, "Thank you for your profound contributions to the ATF and your country. The nation is safer because of your efforts."
Thank you, Mason.
Thank you, Roger and Mason. Now, on behalf of the Office of Enforcement Programs and Services, Megan Bennett.
Good morning, Director. On behalf of the men and women of the Office of Enforcement Programs and Services, I want to thank you for your unwavering support for the work EPS does and its mission and the mission of ATF. For those of you who don't know, you've heard several times today already that we did several regulations while the director's been here, and I came at the tail end of one of those. But I know you were very involved in those, and we appreciate the support for that. And on behalf of everyone, So this does not need to be traced
Okay.
nor registered.
That's great.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you. You've been fantastic. And I'm so thankful that you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Next, on behalf of the Office of Human Resources and Professional Development, Joe Mastriana. Joe.
Sir, I can still remember when I came to ATF for the interview back in August of 2023. It was the most intense interview I've ever had in my entire career, I must tell you, and I've been on quite a few. I know you kept talking to me about what my experience was working with OPM and working with outside agencies because of the 1800 series classification authority, and I kept answering the questions, but I kept getting other questions back again. And sir, I really felt like I was being cross-examined by the best. And so I actually was waiting for you to say, if they don't restore, you can find the door. But I didn't hear that. I thank you so much on behalf of the men and women of HRPD. We really appreciate your support. It's been absolutely outstanding, and we wish you the very, very best, sir. So this is the levitating football. That's what is inside here, and we hope you really enjoy it.
Oh, wait.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you for that opportunity to get a little OHIO in there. I know some people at ATF were going to be very disappointed if that did not occur today, Justin. Next up, on behalf of the Office of Professional Responsibility and Security Operations, Kristen Detinio.
Thank you. Good morning. I know it may feel like it's afternoon, but it's not yet. It's still good morning. So on behalf of the Office of Professional Responsibility and Security Operations, which I can't even tell you all of the really cool things we do because it's all secret, but one of the things we do is we are responsible for all of the security investigations, all of the background checks, and all of the credentialing. So thank you for your support. And on behalf of our directorate, these are your credentials embedded over our headquarters. Thank you for PGA for the help. I'm not this creative myself. Symbolize you always being able to look over us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Kristen. Next, I would like to welcome up Brian Nickey on behalf of the Office of Public and Governmental Affairs, and just another thank you to him and his team for today's event. Thank you, Brian.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everybody. On behalf of the men and women of the Office of Public and Governmental Affairs, we would like to also present to you with a small memento. Thank you for everything that you've done for us. You have seen this before. While it's not a wood carving in the building, it is a hand illustration of ATF headquarters. So hopefully you'll find that as a creative way to remember us and to remember where you've been. PGA commissioned a very talented artist a while back. We did a limited run of 20 prints, and we'd like to present with you number 14 of 20. And again, hopefully you will remember us and remember where you came from, and thank you very much for everything. Best of luck.
Thank you, Brian. Next, I would like to welcome Franco Frande from the Office of Management, which, for those of you not with ATF, this includes our budget. So thank you for your patience during lots of meetings and some that were more difficult than others. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. First and foremost, to your family, thanks for sharing your husband and your father. He's been just an absolute great person to lead our agency, to do what he's done over the past almost 3 years. We really thank you for having him away from you. We all know what kind of sacrifice that means. It means a lot to us that you shared him Steve, just as one of your execs, I can't thank you enough for all that you did for the agency. I wish they would have told us on day one about this boundless energy thing. It may have made some meetings go a little quicker, a little easier, a little softer. But you just were so hyper-focused on getting the agency to move forward. So everything that you did to fix the OPM classification issue, everything that you did to work with me to realign resources for the agency to get things done, to rebuild HRPD, to get hiring back on track, to have a focus of bringing more agents and IOIs and administrative folks on board. The only thing I'm really left with is thinking, I can't think of a better attorney that would have made a great accountant, because you were there lockstep with me the whole way. And I know when I talk numbers, you know, the eyes roll back in the head and you get a little bit of that. He was there the whole way, the whole time, made some great decisions, so we want to thank you. Going back to Boundless Energy, you gave such a great piece of yourself to us as an agency that we actually want to give you something back. So on behalf of the men and women of the Office of Management, you can take this as a keepsake to your future place of employment for all the guns that we destroyed, that the men and women that you have on the streets working cases, that are seizing those guns that come to us, and explosives and everything else that we do that you ran, that was your vision. You've got a great story box here to tell them all about ATF. So thank you very much, and congratulations, sir.
Thank you, Franco. Next up from our Office of Chief Counsel, our Chief Counsel Pam Hicks, and I will just say on my personal behalf and for the director, thank you. I'm sure it brought some unique joys and challenges to have a very engaged attorney as your director, and you have been a phenomenal partner and friend, so thank you.
So I don't know if you know this, but we had snow in DC, and unlike Cleveland, it has delayed our presentation because while Fairfax County schools might finally be open today, I'm not sure that the store I'm working on it is. So it is document-based though, so it's not nearly as cool as like hand-carved items, but it'll be here next week. So with the missing presentation, I was trying to think about what I would talk about, and what I decided on was something that Chelsea referenced, which is, and I saw Director Buckles in the audience, which is when you were nominated, people say to the Chief Counsel, well, that's great, he's a lawyer, isn't that great? And I said, maybe? We'll see. So I want to thank you, though, on behalf of our office, Steve, for always listening to us, not always agreeing with us, not always following our advice, but always listening to us and always treating the attorneys in my office and myself with respect and giving us a hearing. And when we did disagree, I always knew it was because we were both trying to figure out what was best for the agency, which is always a really nice place to be as counsel. And it's always great to have someone in the director's office who cares what counsel thinks before they go do whatever they're going to do. So on behalf of the men and women of the Office of Chief Counsel, I want to thank you for your support and for our 8 a.m. arguments. So thank you.
Thank you, Pam. And last but certainly not least, on behalf of the Office of Intelligence Operations, Catherine Eberhardt.
Good morning. Good morning, Director. You know, I sit here, I listen to the DAG and the AG, and I just couldn't have asked for better words. It was almost as if it was a primer to this very moment, because they talked about crime gun intelligence and NIBIN. And I know that it was not a primer, but I'd like to think that it was. So on behalf of the Office of Intelligence Operations, we would like to bestow an award to you, sir, that you have bestowed upon so many others during your time with us. An award that has exemplified excellence and the highest standards of crime gun intelligence. One that has been granted at our annual Crime Gun Intelligence Chiefs of Police Forum to chiefs of police, police departments, case agents, and those that are board members on our governing board. And those are ones that have exemplified the highest standards in innovation and applications of crime gun intelligence. And we couldn't think of a better award for you to join that list. So with that, and before we bestow that award to you, one thing that I think is interesting is that, especially when we talk about NIBIN, we describe it in a way that is, a fingerprint, on each gun, one that can, track a gun and be able to, trace or link events from one scene to the next. And I hope you know that you have personalized your time here. And a way that you've done that is how you explain things. And I think about the time when we opened the National Crime Gun Intelligence Center of Excellence. And when we opened it, it was the press conference, and you said, without written speech, you said, a match made in Wichita. And you looked at me and you said, I just thought of that. And you were so impressed by yourself, and it was, and I thought, wow, that was really clever. And then I was thinking about it the other night, and I remember your first interview, and I have to say there were a lot of us that were holding our breath that first interview as we watched. And I think the interviewer said, sir, can you explain what crime gun intelligence is? And as much as we think we can explain it, sometimes it's the easiest questions that are the hardest to explain. And you raised your hand up and kind of made a gun, and you said, sometimes it's squeezing every bit of information out of a gun that you can get. And we all kind of released our breath with a sigh, thinking, yeah, actually, that's a great way of explaining it. And so, I think you've made your imprint in a way that has been personalized, and your legacy is one that people can take away with understanding what crime gun intelligence is. And with that, the inscription on your award, sir, is for squeezing every last bit of intelligence out of a crime gun and advancing justice with unmatched dedication. So thank you for your service to ATF, and the very best to you and your family. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. And I think having heard from all of our assistant directors and just getting a tiny little snippet of the phenomenal people here at ATF, you can excuse my emotions earlier at having to say farewell. You are all remarkable. The most important title for my friend, Steve Dettelbach, is not director, it is father and dad. And so I am so humbled to be able to introduce his children, Allie and David Dettelbach.
He has all the alcohol and firearms now. All he needs is the tobacco and explosives to complete the whole thing.
Yeah, we're going to be giving a toast, and there's sparkling cider in the back for later. Teddy Roosevelt's Man in the Arena speech reads,
It is not the critic who counts.
God knows Mom has a Google alert for all of those critics.
Not the man who points out how strong the man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better.
The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat
We know sweat's not in short supply for our dad.
and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs,
Heirs, now you're describing the dad I know.
who comes short again and again,
Because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause.
who, at the best, knows, in the end, the triumph of high achievement, and who, at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls, who neither knew victory nor defeat.
Now, wait, get to the point, Allie. You know from many years of critiques on various school writing assignments that Dad hates big words and run-on sentences.
You're right. Dad put it simpler after every report card and basketball game and debate tournament when he asked us, "Did you try your hardest?"
Well, Dad, today we're here to congratulate you and to thank you. Not for your part in decreasing gun violence and protecting the country's most vulnerable, but for never giving up your fight.
On a more personal note, I want to tell a story about a moment from my childhood that was personally one of the most formative moments of my entire life to this point. It was in 2018, on the night when my father lost his bid for Ohio Attorney General. David was asleep in the other room when this happened, and the dust hadn't even settled, and he had just gotten word that he didn't have a path to victory that night. Just before he was going to go to concede the race, he pulled me aside, and he looked me dead in the eyes, and he said, "I know I lost, but I don't regret running one bit." My dad's greater sense of purpose and his refusal to give up when he believes that helping people is on the line is something that I have observed my dad embody fiercely in his position in ATF. From afar, both at school and also up close when I had the great pleasure and fun of living with him this summer. I saw how proud and dedicated my dad is to being a member of the ATF family, even when it means getting yelled at during congressional hearings or getting constantly sued for ATF rules. Dad, I'm so proud to be able to learn from someone like you, a role model like you who models strength and conviction even when doing the easy thing and doing the right thing don't align. And I also know your parents who couldn't be here today would be so proud of the man they raised. And I know that Mom, David, and I are so proud of you.
To take on this challenge, this honor of a lifetime, my dad had to make sacrifices along the way. During his term, for most of it at least, I was finishing up high school back in Cleveland, Ohio, and my dad selflessly commuted home from Washington on weekends whenever he could, whether it was to watch a basketball game of mine, see my mom, or spend time with our cat Mittens, who admittedly didn't always reciprocate his unconditional love and affection. But what I always admired was his ability to be present in the moment, even while under so much pressure and duress at work. Instead of leaving Sunday evening, he would stay until Monday so he could soak up as much time with me and my mom as humanly possible, waking up oftentimes at 3 a.m. so that he could be back in his office by 8, working for the American people, fighting for what he believed was right. I think that speaks a lot to his character, perseverance, and the example he's set for us, not only as a public servant, but as a father and a person.
And now we're gonna close our toast with a quote from one of our dad's favorite cinematic masterpieces of all time, Rocky VI.
And Dad, anyone who spent a lot of time with him knows he loves a good movie quote. So because it's your special day, I'll even do the voice. It ain't about how hard you've hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
So here's a toast to the man in the arena,
The fighter in the ring,
our hero.
and the best dad we could possibly ask for, Steve Dettelbach.
Thank you, Dad.
Well, I think it's my turn. First of all, I just want to thank each and every one of you for being here. Every single person here, as I look out, I just want to talk and wave to every single one, make eye contact. You are all so special to me. All the folks that Chelsea mentioned and more. I can't call each and every one of you out by name and get you off to the busy days that you have, but that's the way I feel about you. Thanks for all your support, all your friendship, and all the work that you do. And I also want to thank the people who made this happen. Chelsea, PGA, Kim and Brian, thank you so much. All the others, Calvin, who helped put this together. My wife, and Andrea Dettelbach, my DC whisperer. You made sure that you fed my body and you fed my soul also. Allie and David, thank you very much for that introduction. But more, thank you for everything that you are and everything that you're going to be. Thanks for supporting me, and thanks for keeping me humble. Really humble. There's nothing in my whole life that makes me prouder than you two. Moving on to slightly less important folks, and I know that they would all agree with this. I want to thank the President of the United States, the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, the people from the White House who are here for giving me the opportunity to come back to the Department of Justice again to lead the incredible people here at ATF. Thanks to those people at the department who supported me in every way a person could ask to be supported in doing their job. I see my component heads here, fellow component heads, Susan, who I've known since I was 14 years old, Jolene, Colette, Chief, Brian may be here somewhere. In case you're wondering about whether what you do makes a difference for the other components, it really does make a difference. What incredible partners we have at ATF. We have the great privilege of working with our state, local, federal law enforcement partners. Jim, thank you for coming and for speaking, but thanks more for the people that you represent, not just the FOP, but you mentioned the other law enforcement leaders who are here, the great people out there, the first responders all over this country. Every single thing we do at ATF depends upon those people and this partnership. To our other partners, I mentioned folks from the White House staff, Rob Gregg, to those here representing the mayors of this country, and those who advocate for the victims and survivors of violent crime. I can't name you all, but I need to thank you all for everything you do to speak for those who don't have a voice. There is just one special example of a person like that I want to call out, and that's Mia Tretta. I don't know if Mia made it here, but she came here from California. And Mia, we are all thinking about the folks out in California, in the LA area where I know you're from. Mia, I'll tell you the rest of you, our families were trapped in a room together for hours the day that I was nominated. And since then, after that forced introduction, I've had the pleasure of watching you continue your leadership, and I will say, at least to my knowledge, the best darn ATF intern ever. So thank you. As you've seen, I have the best leadership team that anybody could possibly imagine in any agency. From the deputy Marvin on down, you saw them all, you heard them all, but what they didn't tell you, they told you about me, they didn't tell you about themselves. These are incredibly talented, experienced career agents and leaders who work hard every single day to protect Americans from violent crime. Rob and Fonz, ATF's first ever executive assistant directors. We have been through a lot together. You've just been incredible. And I know I speak for Marvin too when I say that the future of ATF is lock solid secure as long as there are leaders like you here doing the job. To all the staffs that the assistant directors have, can't thank you all by name, but I also can't thank each and every one of you enough. And then the great folks on my staff, my incredibly talented and often harried chief of staffs, Danny Board, is here. Thank you for coming back, my friend. As you told me, you were my ATF training wheels. Joe Allen, I don't know if Joe's here somewhere, but Joe Allen, who is hiding as usual. But Joe Allen is a DOJ treasurer, no matter where the hell he claims he works now, you bum. And my brilliant counselors, Justin O'Connell. Justin, you helped me both get the job and then you helped me do the job. My old friend Nick Patterson, who's literally been everywhere in this department. Christina Mastropasqua, she heads communications for ATF. That's a tough job. As some of you noticed, I'm not really that shy of a person. Dwight Henninger, the first ever senior law enforcement advisor here. Karen Montgomery, just steady as a rock. And Betty Coleman, whose wonderful voice outside my office fills my days. Thank you all for putting up with a boss with a lot of ideas, opinions, and a lot to say. One other thing for me and my family, I want to thank the agents on my detail. You've protected me so well through some tough times, but in addition to that, even with all the crazy that's going on out there, you have made us feel safe. That is so important. But most of all, thanks to the thousands of people who fill the ranks of ATF. You are quite simply my heroes. You're led by the best SACs in all of law enforcement, period. You run toward gunfire. That's not a metaphor. That's called Tuesday at ATF. You pour through intelligence and data deep into lonely nights away from your families, where the only warm thing around is a cup of cheap coffee. You do the inspections. You rush the trace. You crank out the NIBIN correlation, you run the DNA test, you knock on the door, you do interview after interview after interview, over and over and over, go through doors that are more dangerous than we can imagine. Because violent criminals have their own plans and they don't keep banker's hours. Because there's a homicide detective somewhere out there that needs that case-breaking lead. Because there's a victim or survivor praying for justice. Because you want to save some other innocent person out there who doesn't even really know that they're in danger, but they are until you catch that shooter before they shoot again, that arsonist, that bomber, before they act again. And you risk everything to do that, everything. As you heard, I was in Tampa last week with the Murray family. And I was reminded of that again, as if any of us really need to be reminded. So especially today, to heroes like Matt, like Carlos, like Adam, and like Tyler. I thank God that I had the privilege of working with people who have your courage and strength every single day. I am saying farewell, but you are and you always will be ATF. You know, as for me and how I spent my time here, I did my best, as my kids say, to deserve this honor, the honor of my professional life. And actually, I just tried to do what I see you do at ATF. In the wake of horrible violence, hurting so many people, just like all the people here at ATF, I found it morally unacceptable to sit around and do nothing. To sit around and just accept it, because it is unacceptable. Or barely better, just to kind of keep doing the same darn thing over and cross your fingers and hope it turns out better. Inaction, or even just kind of bumping along, may cut it some places, but it has never been good enough at ATF. And that didn't start with me, and that's not going to end when I walk out that door. Whether it's using RICO on gang cases, or harvesting crime gun intelligence like never before to catch trigger pullers, or doing advanced undercover work to bust up a motorcycle gang, or revolutionizing ballistic touch DNA, or cracking down on illegal ghost guns, or busting southbound cartel traffickers, or completing thorough and fair inspections to make sure everybody's following the same set of rules, or working with academics and industry to try to address 3D printed switches, or stopping illegal sales without background checks, no matter where they are done. At ATF, we do everything we legally can to drive down violent crime. Let me tell you something about ATF for those of you who are visitors here today. Something I learned long ago and I saw as director. This building, this is not a memo writing place. This is a law enforcement place. That's what it has been, that's what it is now, and that's what it's always going to be. And by the way, it saves lives, as the crime done data that you heard prove. And ATF and the men and women here deserve all the support and the funding that highly effective, proven law enforcement should get. So thanks, ATF. Thanks for having me. I will always have your back. Not because I love you, although I do, but because it is the right thing for the American people. And those people, they deserve a strong ATF. Speaking of deserves, I want to end now by thanking 3 women in my life that I certainly don't deserve. I nowhere near deserve them. Michelle Back. Directors come and go, but Michelle Back is a constant. Michelle, thank you so much for always being there for me every day, for your quiet excellence, for trying, God bless you, to keep me on time, for your sympathetic ear. Short, thank you for everything, Michelle. Chelsea Rice, my counselor, my chief of staff, my fellow Clevelander, and it does have written here, OH. But most of all, my friend, thank you for joining me on this journey. And as usual, thanks for doing what you always do, delivering excellence and delivering justice. And finally, to you, Care, the love of my life. Being away from you these last years has been the single hardest thing I have ever done. Thank you for loving me for the deeply imperfect person that I am. And thank you for always showing me what being better means. I love you to the moon and back, and I really cannot wait to start bugging the hell out of you again every single day in person. I'm just so much better at it in person. So as they say, that's a wrap. Thanks to you all. I know that you all will keep fighting for decency and that you all will keep fighting for justice. It's what everybody here in this room has in common. It's the core of what this country strives to be at its best, and it's what this place, ATF, is all about. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Director, and thank all of you. We hope that you can stay and join us for refreshments and food and to mingle. So please enjoy, and most of all, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you.